Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous night between the 13th and the 14th of June of 2026, both the Russians and the Ukrainians attacked each other with drones. As of the Russian attack, according to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, during the previous night the Russians used just 98 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine, and this is the lowest number since the beginning of this week. And this is already a third day in a row when the Russians used around 100 of drones to attack the territory of Ukraine, which means that the Russians right now are trying to accumulate their drones with the purpose to attack Ukraine with thousands maybe of drones in coming days. And the several sources reported that probably during the upcoming night between the 14th and the 15th of June of 2026, the Russians will attack the territory of Ukraine using hundreds or even thousands of drones. As of the Russian attack, according to information we have, explosions were recorded through the southwestern part of the Odessa region. An object of energy infrastructure was damaged and probably destroyed to the northwest of the settlement of Katlab. So this object was attacked, and we have several pictures, several satellite images that show the consequences of attack and fire anomalies. Another important thing is that the Russians continue attacking bridges that connect the southwestern parts of the Odessa region with the mainland. We are talking about the bridge around the settlement of Mayaki, and we are talking about the Zatoka bridge. But as of the morning of the 14th of June of 2026, we haven't received anything that can confirm the real damage that the Russians managed to deal to the Ukrainians. Another area that is badly bombed by the Russians these days is the settlement of Kherson. In this video we can see how the Russians were bombing the city of Kherson, how the Russians have bombed the city of Kherson probably since the beginning of June of 2026. During this video we can see lots of episodes of Russian satellites were flying over the city of Kherson, how the Russians were bombing different parts of the city. As you can see, lots of explosions were recorded, black smoke over the city of Kherson. It seems that the Russians managed to hit something significantly, and probably an oil depot or an fuel depot or a warehouse was completely destroyed as a result of this attack. Yesterday, if you remember, we discussed this video, and according to this video we see that something big probably was damaged and destroyed by Russians. Here we can see a very black smoke over this facility, and today we received the video showing the consequences of attack. As you can see, a warehouse was completely reduced to ruins without any chances to repair it or to restore it. Most likely the Ukrainians right now use the city of Kherson, or they used to use the city of Kherson and its infrastructure to attack in the direction of the northern parts of Crimea, where the Ukrainians managed to establish partial control over the main logistic lines. Another important area is the city of Zaporizhzhia. During the previous night, lots of explosions were recorded through the industrial zone, and it seems that the Russians were attacking objects of energy infrastructure. And these videos were published from the city of Zaporizhzhia during the previous night. In this moment, we can see probably explosions on an object of energy infrastructure, and right after this situation happened, a blackout occurred. In this video, we can see another object of energy infrastructure that was destroyed by the Russians through the city of the Zaporizhzhia during the previous night. I would like to remind you that these days the Ukrainians also try to counterattack in the direction of the cities of Tokmak through the entire Zaporizhzhia direction with the purpose to recapture the initiative. So that is why the Russians attack the main logistic lines, subjects of energy infrastructure, railway stations through this territory. As for the railway stations, a very important video is coming from the settlement of Vasylkivka. This day, almost every single day, the Russians bomb and attack the city of Vasylkivka, and here we can see lots of videos on the matter of consequences of attack. Yes, we received first video about consequences of attack on the territory of Vasylkivka yesterday. First, we received lots of videos that the Russians during the night between the 12th and the 13th of June of 2026 were attacking the settlement of Vasylkivka using probably hundreds of bombs, and later we received this video, and this is the first video that was published on the morning of the 13th of June of 2026, and as I told you minutes ago, almost a micro distance district was reduced to ruins as a result of the Russian attack. And this video we received more updates on this matter. Here we can see the same micro district or the same block of the settlement of Vasylkivka almost completely reduced to ruins as a result of the Russian attack that took place between the 12th and the Russian attacks that took place between the 12th and the 14th of June of 2026. And summarizing everything, we can see that most of these attacks are taking place along the line of combat contact and along the most important directions, along the Odessa, Crimean, and Zaporizhzhia and Kherson directions of the southern regions. Now let's move further and let's discuss attacks that were carried out by the Ukrainians. During the previous nights, lots of updates on this matter were published. The Ukrainian sources reported that during the previous nights, the Ukrainians used around 300 of drones to attack deep inside of the theater of Russia, and these pictures were published by pro-Ukrainian sources. Approximately, the Ukrainians used 300 of drones. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that during the nights, the Russians destroyed 249 drones of the armored forces of Ukraine, and during the previous day, the Russians destroyed 109 drones. So, summarizing everything, we can see that during the previous 24 hours, the Russians destroyed more than 350 drones over the theater of the Russian Federation. And according to information we have yesterday and during the previous night, the main routes of attack took place in the direction of the central part of Russia, more precisely in the direction of the northern regions of the Russian Federation. And during the night, we received lots of updates on this matter. Explosions were recorded through the settlement of Oryol, and in these videos we can see the consequences of attack. We can see that a drone struck a building on the theater of the city. Later, the sources reported that the Russians managed to destroy the Ukrainian drone that was flying over the settlement, and as a result of attack, the drone fell on the theater of the city. Furthermore, explosions were recorded through the settlement of Vyazma, Smolensk region, and here we can see a black smoke over the city. Probably another drone was destroyed by Russians and he fell down on the theater of some enterprise or something like this, and a black smoke occurred. And there were two more places that the Ukrainians struck during the previous night, and the Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage. First of all is the settlement of Novomoskovsk, and according to information we have, the Ukrainians attacked the Novomoskovsk chemical plant and the fire anomaly was immediately recorded. And in these videos, we can see the consequences of attack, black smoke over the Novomoskovsk chemical plant. The chemical plant was damaged significantly. We can see Ukrainian drones flying over the territory. In this video, we can see the Novomoskovsk chemical plant by the name of Azot from another angle. And here we can see the consequences of attack. So here we can see the moments of explosions when the Ukrainians were attacking this territory. But the Novomoskovsk chemical plant wasn't the main target of the armored forces of Ukraine. The city of Rybinsk was the main target of the armored forces of Ukraine. And when talking about this settlement, we have one of the biggest oil base, oil depot on the territory of the city, which is located through the eastern parts of the settlement. And as you can see, we have lots of updates on this matter. Now it's become clear that the settlement of Rybinsk was the primary target for the armored forces of Ukraine, and as a result of attack that was carried out by the Ukrainians between the 13th and the 14th of June of 2026, the Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage to this Rybinsk oil base, and here we can see Ukrainian drones that were flying over the theater and how Ukrainians were continue attacking the settlement and its and oil bases on the theater of the settlement. As you can see, huge fire broke out right after the Ukrainians attacked the territory. So now it's clear that indeed the Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage. Probably several oil tanks were completely destroyed by the armored forces of Ukraine. And the most important thing that we need to understand that these oil base and these oil depots are located to the north of the city of Moscow, and the most important task and the most important purpose of these these attacks for the armed forces Ukraine were to create a fuel crisis on the territory of the capital of the Russian Federation, the city of Moscow. So the Russians were using these oil depots to support the city of Moscow in the region. So that is why the Ukrainians were trying to create the situation when there were going to be a shortage of fuel through the Moscow region. And as the Ukrainians believes and the Ukrainian authorities believe that this can lead to some unpredictable consequences. First of all, for population, probably the Ukrainians are trying to create the situation when people of Russia will begin striking against the current situation and against probably the conflict with Ukraine. But as of the 14th of June of 2026, we see that nothing like this is happening. Another important thing is that the Russians continue preparation before their massive attack. Most likely the Russians will strike in coming days, in coming hours, and this is going to be a very powerful retaliatory strike. Most likely the Russians will probably intensify the total war between the Russians and the Ukrainians. The situation is critical. We have a critical situation through the northern parts of Crimea. We have a critical situation with fuel, which means that neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians have a lot of time to continue the conflict like this, because the parties are being exhausted much faster than we used to see during the 2022 or 2023, which means that neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians have a lot of time to support this level of strikes on the territories of each other and the damages through these strikes. As for the northern parts of Crimea, during the previous 12 hours, we received additional updates about the situation in this area. The Ukrainians continue attacking bridges between Crimea and Kherson. Here we have additional updates on this matter. In this video, we can see the comparison before and after strikes carried out by the Ukrainians. As we can see, a parking site was badly damaged by the Ukrainians to the south of the bridge of Changar, and another bridge was damaged significantly to the south of the settlement of Genichesk. Furthermore, the Ukrainians continue controlling the Armyansk corridor, and for example, during the previous night, we received this video where we can see how the Russians most likely were trying to improve their air defense positions to the north of the settlement, but the Ukrainians discovered several air defense positions and units of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. They attacked them and destroyed. So the situation is quite complicated for this area, and this is the main reason why the Russians intensified their attacks on the city of Kherson and through the southwestern parts of the Zaporizhzhia region. But at the same time, we see that the Russians continue their offensives along the entire line of combat contact. And of course, the most important battle these days is the city of Konstantynivka and the battle for the city of Konstantynivka. The sources reported that the battle is about to be finished. Furthermore, several pro-Russian sources reported that the Russians managed to encircle a lot of Ukrainians in this area. As of the most southern parts of the city, we're talking about the Metalurh micro-district. According to pro-Russian sources, 300 soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine were encircled in this area. And probably due to the situation that 300 of soldiers were encircled here, we believe that up to 1,500 soldiers are still located through the northern parts of the city, and these 1,500 could be encircled by the Russians as well. And probably the Russians have already established an operational encirclement of this territory without any chances to escape this area without losses. The Russians reported that they established physical control over the Chervony micro-district, and the Russians reported that they established complete fire control over the 0523 road, and currently the Ukrainians are no longer able to use the northern roads for evacuation. The only possible solution for these 1,000 soldiers to escape through tree lines in the western direction, but these tree lines are under complete FPV drone control. The battle for the city of Konstantinivka will be finished in coming hours. Maybe days, maybe hours. Now let's move further. Another important territory is the Barova pocket. These days we start receiving lots of very interesting updates about the situation in this area. Pro-Ukrainian sources reported that these days the armed forces of Ukraine began a counter-offensive operation with the purpose to cut the Sviatohirsk pocket. This is the official position of pro-Ukrainian sources that the Liman counter-offensive operation begins with the purpose to cut the Sviatohirsk pocket, but pro-Russian sources reported that this is not the truth. According to information from the pro-Russian sources, currently the Ukrainians are trying to maintain a corridor through the southern Kupiansk direction. They try to maintain this corridor with the purpose not to allow the Russians to encircle. The pro-Russian sources stated that there are up to 30 battalions on the territory of this pocket, and currently the Ukrainians lost any possibilities to evacuate these 30 battalions without losses. So that is why the Ukrainians began maintaining the corridor of this pocket with the purpose to begin retreating from this area with minimal losses. The Russians right now are repelling all these attacks from one side, from the southern side, and from the northern side. The Russians intensify their offensive operation with the purpose not to allow the Ukrainians to escape this cauldron and to escape this encirclement. The battle for the southern Barova pocket in coming days will be also finished, and most likely this is going to be another defeat. And that's it for today. For the short video, the Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.